going to see Batiste coming into play.
We're just going to bring it all in this first one. Game number one, though, we're on to the fold. Glaive and a Vox in the lane, though. This is kind of something I've wanted to see as well, because Gabe Vizzle, people have been talking about him time and time again, what a fantastic captain he is, and I want to see him match up against Cavalifar.
Here we go, SK making an aggressive move here. Scout Trap will be able to sort of ward off and keep that lane earlier, but this is an invade coming out from the entire SK squad, and looks like Cloud9 are going to respond by shoving that lane up incredibly hard, with both Old School and Gabe Vizzle doing the work there. By shoving the lane up, you do punish SK slightly. They do lose lane minions to the turret, and obviously, in that case, it means you kind of lose a bit of gold efficiency in your invade. And Gabe Vizzle, being Glaive, is going to make his move to the back of the SK jungle and start to do a similar thing.
Yeah, and I can imagine what we're going to see here from Jetpacks at least is just disrupt this Koska as much as he can. Tyro's, he's this rookie player, first live event, and he was talking to us saying how he's so excited to play on stage. And coming up with such a titan that is Cloud9, I'm kind of like curious to see how he's actually going to you know, react in this sense, because Mouse Sports, you could say it was more or less going to be a 3-0 from the get-go.
Gabe Vizzle's going to walk straight into SK here, but SK not overly fond of trying to make that committed play right now. They're just going to continue farming. Looks like it's been a fairly even trade across it so far for C9 and SK. C9 did respond really well to that SK early invade. They, again, like we said, they shoved the wave. So obviously you're getting a farm already over onto Old School, and Gabe Vizzle did a really good job of putting pressure in the back jungle. But here come SK once more. Another three-man roam.
Another three-man, though. They're just completely ignoring the lane. Ordain's going to come down. Gabe Vizzle's going to get stunned up if he does leave it. Doesn't end up doing it. Afterburn's away. I Love Joseph's going to be kind of safe up there, but SK Gaming, they want to take the fight to Cloud9.
Is this maybe over-aggression from SK right now? They are committing a lot of resources to try and make these plays in the enemy jungle. Cavalifar is yet to have the time to farm in lane. He's already 16 CS behind Old School. I love the idea from SK, but maybe it's a little bit too much down that line. Too much trying to counter NA at the very early stage of the game.
Well, Cavalifar's in a lot of trouble here. Cloud9 just jump on him and grab first blood. Old School as well with that kill that's going to be huge for him. The amount of time he's had to farm plus this early goal from the kill, it's going to be pretty big, and we all know what happens when a late game box comes about.
Yeah, I think you had this duo from SK that was the Batiste and the Grumpjaw, and I think that worked really well as a duo jungle. If I Love Joseph was going to find aggressive moves, if Gabe Vizzle was going to find aggressive moves, especially, imagine this, Gabe Vizzle committing with an afterburn, Ordain comes down, and suddenly he's stuck there, you know, in the midst of that SK lineup, and he becomes a real sitting duck. But the problem is Cavalifar spent a lot of his time supporting his team, trying to find those aggressive moves, and I guess they were hunting for first blood, they were hunting to potentially pick someone off in the early game, but it's all gone wrong in the first sort of couple of minutes here for SK, because C9 are the ones that pick up first blood. Old School's already farmed. He's already hitting those tier sort of 2-item spikes with the heavy steel.
Tyro's in a lot of trouble here. Afterburn is actually going to stun him up. Old School's going to join them as well. He's in a lot of trouble. Hangry over the wall, doesn't quite make it, and Cloud9 pick up their second kill of the game, and who better to have it on than Old School?
I feel like this is just SK now kind of lost their early game plan. Didn't quite work out for them, and now they're struggling to know actually where to have an impact. Looking at I Love Joseph now, has found an aggressive move here. Jetpack's doing what he can to try and defend this, but again, level differences are quite different.
Does use the Ordain. I Love Joseph's trapped in there. SK Gaming are now marching down their jungle. Can they do anything here? There's a lot of mobility from C9. Tyrus is having to make a forward heads-up play. Old School going fairly low. They're going to jump back in on them. A bit of a skirmishing going on. Tyrus jumps in. That's too big for him, though, as Joseph does take him out. And now they're in a lot of trouble. Ordain comes through, and Jetpacks is going to be able to secure that kill. Do manage to trade 1-for-1. But Cloud9 yet again seem to come out on top.
Cavalifar a little bit low in energy there. I like what SK were trying to do. They were trying to sort of punish, again, that was exactly what I think their composition is designed to do, punish that aggressive move, kind of shut down the mobility of a very mobility-dependent composition from Cloud9, because we haven't yet talked about what these compositions are designed to do. Obviously, going to get too much time because there was so much action at the start, but you have a look at what Cloud9 have brought to the table. They've got super aggressive moves. They can obviously commit very hard as both Koshka and Glaive. You can try and focus down a singular target, particularly Adagio, pretty weak to that particular combination. But they've also got good peel there as well. Gabe Vizzle going to be eventually moving towards some cooldown reduction, a bit more utility focused on this Glaive. He'll be looking to peel for Old School, and that's where my worry comes in for SK's composition. If you don't get ahead early, you can get kited so easily with what SK have brought to the table. You've got a low mobility Grumpjaw, although he's got a dash, he's not particularly mobile otherwise. Cavalifar might die here.
Cavalifar, he's got the heal on him, but it's not going to matter. Old School comes in once more for another kill. I mean, this is going to be the problem here for SK, with Old School with 3 kills on the board already. Look how much gold he has. 2,500 gold. He's going to go back. He's going to finish his Sora Blade, actually take that back, actually pick up some Poison Shiv first item.
Great. I love the Poison Shiv here. I think the healing is super critical to the way that SK need to play. Remember, if you commit your Grumpjaw, you commit your Batiste, they are sitting ducks, and if you then take the healing out of the picture for Adagio, suddenly they are much easier to take down, much easier to deal with, and SK suddenly might be finding themselves in this first game very seriously behind. I think this is a big matchup that I wanted to talk about as well, this matchup between Cavalifar and Old School. I think Cavalifar would be one of the first to say that maybe mechanically he's not quite on that level that Old School is. Old School really is that level above. And he seems to be getting exploited quite early here by those aggressive moves from Gabe Vizzle and Old School being able to follow up on them. SK just, I think I liked their draft. I think I liked what it was supposed to do, but C9, if SK didn't win the early game, C9 just run away with it, and it looks like they are starting to do so now. I
mean, Ordain does actually stun up on Joseph here. Tyrus is going to come in, just gets knocked back with the afterburn, though. Cloud9, I mean, the thing is, right now, you've got to put this up on the board. Joseph, he's got the level 6. He has got the Yummy Cat Frenzy available to him.
And also, more importantly, that is a prime example of what I meant by the ability to kite this SK composition. As soon as Tyrus commits, afterburns away, they've suddenly got nothing to chase C9 down, and you've got a hyper-mobile carry laner, like the Vox, a very mobile Koshka, who, despite what most people think, doesn't have the worst drop-off in the late game either. You know, I don't know if SK have what it takes to chase down C9. All you need to do is Gabe Vizzle to afterburn Grumpjaw, and then suddenly Vox is kiting for days. If you can't get within ultimate range, and like we said, even if you can, Gabe Vizzle has been known to be able to crucible those Grumpjaw ultimates. It will be very difficult to deal with Old School for SK.
Oh, another afterburn comes in, does land to Jetpacks, repositions him, but they can't really follow that up. Joseph once more, Yummy Cat Frenzy available to him. Bad Mojo flying out, Ordain's going to come through as well. Old School's actually caught up here. Grumpjaw's going to dive over the wall first, Judge's going to come down, but not before they pick up 1 kill. I love Joseph falls, Old School in a lot of trouble. There's the stuff from SK. Tyrus is going to turn that into a 1v3 situation, but Gabe Vizzle is actually just going to afterburn away.
Yeah, I mean, that was an easy one for Gabe Vizzle, but SK played that really well. They used the Ordained onto Old School. He couldn't commit and couldn't get to that backline to deal with Cavalifar, and suddenly then Tyrus turns onto that critical target of I Love Joseph. Gabe Vizzle trying to be a nuisance here. Might be able to put a bit of pressure onto this gold miner, but does get Ordained.
Though, stun. He does afterburn away. We've got to keep that in mind. Gold miner is going to go over to SK. Joseph hops over the wall to that tree and gets the healing, but can't really match SK.
So people who are fairly new to Batiste might think, why is he being played in the captain role? Why is Batiste good in a captain position? Well, he has an ability called Ordained, which is his B ability, and what that allows him to do is essentially put down a small area that a target member or target enemy can't really move out of, and that synergizes really well with big, heavy-hitting melee bruisers. And as a weapon-powered Grumpjaw, you are exactly that. You are a big, heavy-hitting melee bruiser. It complements low mobility heroes because instead of boosting your hero's mobility, it reduces the mobility of your target, effectively doing the same thing. So that is why you sometimes see Batiste being thought of in these compositions. Here we go again. SK may be looking for a little bit of a duel here against C9.
Oh, Tyrus does have stuff available. He does Hangry in. I Love Joseph's going to get repositioned. Gabe Vizzle in the middle of all of them. I Love Joseph's still surviving somehow. And Killora goes forward to Old School. Cavalifar's going to fall as well. Jetpacks, the last one to go down. Double kill comes through for Gabe Vizzle. Absolutely massive. There was just a clump of health bars and you just saw SK falling.
And stuff not even used by Tyrus, by the way. Didn't have the opportunity to find a target for it. Went straight in. Cavalifar, I think if you choose to take that kind of fight, I think Cavalifar, especially as a CP Adagio, needs to have his ultimate available. Now, there is this big theory that we talk about with CP Adagio. When you have alternating current, is it worth it or more efficient to just try and get basic attack damage down, or do you channel your ultimate? In that situation, had Cavalifar channeled his ultimate, it might have been a saving grace for SK and allowed them to potentially turn the fight. I think you need all of your cooldowns, all of your big hitting abilities available for SK to actually take on a fight here. I think without that Verse of Judgment, Cavalifar potentially was in a lot of a far weaker position because obviously Gabe Vizzle singled him out as an afterburn target. If you get afterburned as an Adagio, the best thing you can do is heal yourself and use your ultimate. In a lot of situations, you know, 6 or 7 times out of 10, that's going to get you something. And I think Cavalifar would have had a lot more success if that was the case right there.
Oh, now Cloud9 are just pushing towards this lane. Jetpack's actually using the boots to come in. Ordained is actually going to get blocked by Old School. So maybe this is going to be the problem now for the impact that Jetpacks can have with that Ordained. As soon as his reflex box comes out, Ordained is a little bit useless.
Yeah, but it does force a reflex block, remember. So you also have other abilities on the side of SK Gaming that you will be tempted to have to try and use that reflex block for. Remember, you do have the... Oh, here we go.
Oh, I don't know. There's a fight going on right now. Cavalifar in the back line just going to get chunked out. Wait for it's actually going to silence 3 members there. It's going to be really big. But the stuff is going to find Gabe Fizzle, but it's not going to matter because Tyrus already falls. It might just be a 1-for-1 trade as Old School's in the front line, but it doesn't matter. He's still surviving as they do afterburn in, and Ace comes through for Cloud9 once more. How does this keep happening?
That was a situation where you don't use your burst of judgment. You just saw one of the members of C9 get taken into the Grumpjaw's belly, and then you charge your burst of judgment right on the edge of where C9 were. Cavalifar would have been a lot better just slamming those basic attacks down in that situation, but C9 played that fight really, really well and dealt with the cards that they were given. You know, they managed to kite backwards. They didn't overcommit to that Crystal Sentry, which is a massive deal to have to fight up against. And I think SK just made a massive mistake the way they attempted to play that fight right there.
Well, we've seen from the American teams already that as soon as they get the lead, they can hold it. And even some of the EU teams were saying that exact phrase. They were saying, okay, so when the North American teams, they take an early turret, they can rotate to our jungle, they can take our fronts. Like, it's extremely hard for us to come back, and North American teams are very, very good at holding that and then pushing forward. And we're seeing that just here. 3 turrets from main for SK. It's not looking good for them thus far. I mean, they just need to crack that first turret on the side of Cloud9.
And also, you've seen time and time again, SK have looked for potential fights, but all it is taken is one afterburn from Gabe Fizzle to shut that down, with Tyrus being the only gap-closing hero that is kind of available for SK. He gets knocked back. SK then have to rely on Cloud9 to make the move. They can't actually find their own initial engagers, which is, I think, is why movement speed is so important to the SK lineup, which is why Jetpacks, I think, ideally should be searching for War Treads ASAP, but he's a little bit behind on items right now. Gabe Fizzle's 2 items ahead of him.
Gabe Fizzle does afterburn. Cavalifar has got Versus Judgment available, but gets Yummy Candy Frenzy. Does end up blocking it. First round on 3 people. Olive Joseph falling really low in the front line. Just going to dash forward. Twirly Death finds the kill onto Jetpacks. That's going to be another afterburn reposition on Tyrus. He's going to dash forward, though. He gets the kill, at least on Old School, but it's still going to be another ace for Cloud9. 3 back-to-back aces, only losing 1 member.
The sustained damage from Cloud9 is just there right now. They weathered the potential early hiccup that SK tried to throw their way, and suddenly you've got Old School and 3 damage items, but you need to just look at those item discrepancies. The items tell you the entire story here, Jaws. It's 3 tier 3 items and Aegis completed for Old School. Cavalifar now only just completing his Broken Myth. Tyra is at 2 items, an item that spikes a little bit earlier as well. Gabe Fizzle trying to get taken down by the Ordained, but he should be pretty safe here. He'll be able to afterburn over the wall in just a second. Yeah,
Bad Mojo is going to slow him up. Is he going to do it? There he goes.
He steals the back camp as well. He just swags out of there, taking that healing camp from the back and says, all right, guys, no worries.
All right, cheers for starting that one for me, lads.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this one and peace out.
C9 just doing exactly what I think a lot of teams expected them to do. Incredible dominance in this first game. I think SK had a good idea in the draft phase, but the execution, especially in those first 2 to 3 minutes, was so punishing for them because it allowed Old School such a free lane as well. Cavalifar was never really in the lane because he spent so much time roaming as a 3-man with SK. It's so important as a laner to have that gold income. You can't really give your opponents quarter, and I think SK gave them, well, not only a quarter, but probably a half.
Yeah, probably about half the game. I mean, one thing I want to touch on as well, SK, their mentality, they've been speaking about it a little bit, and they do feel it's really strong right now, and being a best of 5 is something you've got to kind of think about and process, and the fact that if you do lose the first game, not too much of an issue. It's not a best of 3, you don't have to work back in the 2, you don't have to win the next 2 games to win the series. You can drop a game, you can see what C9 want to bring to the table, and then work from there. Their mentality shouldn't be shooken in that regard.
Yeah, no, I agree, but
doesn't lie, it's going to be another fight there, so I'll just take straight back over again. Gabe Fizzle actually does jump straight in again. Once more, Versus Justin does come down because the massive silence comes through. There it goes, but I'm not sure he's going to be able to get it off as Twirly Death finished off the kill. Olive Joseph jumping in once more. Jetpack's kind of useless. Afterburned away, and Gabe Fizzle once more comes up massive as Joseph takes 2 kills. Old School takes 1, and in fact, doesn't like they're just going to be able to end here at Scoundrel. I just can't believe Cloud9 bringing such a force in game number 1.
I mean, they were given every opportunity to accelerate this game plan for themselves, and they did so with ease. SK had a good idea, didn't manage to execute it. And what's more, I guess, distressing for European teams is that SK was the team that North American teams were saying they